Some people are of the opinion that having sexual intercourse just once during your menstrual cycle period, it's enough for you to get pregnant, while some others are of the opinion that having sexual intercourse on alternate days during your menstrual cycle period, it's enough for you to get pregnant. Hi lovelies, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Cynthia and my channel focuses on women's health and fertility tip. And on today's video, we'll be discussing a very important and very sensitive but extremely important topic, which simply says, how often is it ideal for you to have sexual intercourse if you're trying to conceive? So we'll start by explaining how pregnancy happens. So basically, how pregnancy happens naturally, it's when a male and a female come together and they have unprotected sexual intercourse. So once the unprotected sexual intercourse is done, the spermatozoa from the male reproductive tract is released into the female reproductive tract. It goes through the vagina, it travels from the vagina up to the fallopian tube to get the released egg in the female reproductive tract fertilized. And that is basically how pregnancy occurs naturally. For us to have an idea of when is ideal or how often it's ideal for us to have sexual intercourse during our menstrual cycle, we'll first of all know how to calculate your menstrual cycle. Most people think that menstrual cycle is the number of days you bleed. No, the length of your menstrual cycle, it's from the first day you start bleeding up until the last day before you start bleeding again. So it's just simple. From the first day you started seeing your menstrual period up until the last day before you start seeing your menstrual period again. So that's the definition of menstrual cycle. For us to know how ideal we can have sexual intercourse for us to get pregnant, we'll first of all know how to calculate our menstrual cycle length, and we'll be able to identify our fertile window period, and then that would give us an answer to how frequent or how regular or how many times we can have sexual intercourse. So we're going to be using the calendar month for April 2025. So I've got the calendar month for April 2025. So the first thing we would do here is to calculate this lady's menstrual cycle. So we'll be able to ascertain when she could possibly ovulate or when her fertile window periods are. And we'll be able to tell her how many times she could have sexual intercourse for her to get pregnant. So this lady has a 26-day cycle. Let's say, for instance, she started bleeding on the 3rd. So we're going to start counting. So menstrual cycle, as I said, is from the first day you started bleeding up until the last day before you start bleeding again. So we'll start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So she has a 26-day cycle. So the next bleeding is going to start on the 29th of April. That's the next time she's going to see her period. Remember, she started seeing her period on the 3rd of April, and the last day before she starts seeing another period, that's the 28th of April, which gives us 26 days menstrual cycle length. The next time she's going to see her period, it's the 29th of April. So this is basically how to calculate your menstrual cycle. And the next thing we're going to do, since we have determined how long is her menstrual cycle, the next thing we're going to do is to determine her fertile days. And to determine the fertile days, we've got a constant number which we use, which is 14. So 14 is constant. So this is what we use for the calculation. And we have determined her menstrual cycle, which is 26 days. For us to know her fertile window period is going to be 26 minus 14. And that's going to give us 12. So 26 minus 14 is going to give us 12. So this simply means that on the 12th day of her menstrual cycle, she is likely going to ovulate. So the 12th day of her menstrual cycle is on that day. And there's a high tendency she's going to ovulate on that day. But ovulation is not precise, so we usually do a +2 or -2. So +2 days before ovulation is predicted, or 2 days after ovulation is predicted, someone could actually ovulate. So +2 or -2 is what we usually use. So -2 is going to be, she could either ovulate on day 10 or day 11, and +2 is going to be on day 13 or day 14. So we're just going to circle those days. So this is +2 and this is -2. So we're just going to come round here. So this lady has a high tendency of ovulating either on day 10, day 11, day 12, day 13, day 14. And something very, very important and vital we should know is, the first thing is that spermatozoa, the sperm, once it's released into the female reproductive tract, it could survive in there for about 3 to 5 days. It will just be chilling in there and waiting for egg to get fertilized. While the egg, once the egg is released into the fallopian tubes, it stays in there, it stays alive for about 12 hours to 24 hours. So basically, it's the spermatozoa when released that goes in there and chills for some couple of days, waiting for the egg to get released, so there will be fertilization. So the egg just lasts for about 12 hours to 24 hours. So for us to determine how many days fertile period this lady would have, since we already know that it would last about 3 to 5 days, so we're going to add +5 to the earliest day of when it's predicted for her to ovulate. So the earliest day which is predicted for her to ovulate from our calculation is day 10 of her menstrual cycle. I'm using 2 shades of pen so we don't get confused. I'm using the red one for the menstrual cycle days, and then that one, which is black, it's for the months or the days of the months. Since we're going to be adding 5 to the earliest days predicted for her to ovulate, so the earliest day is predicted for her to ovulate is day 10 of her menstrual cycle. So if we have to add 5 to it for us to get her fertile window period, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So from day 6 of this lady's menstrual cycle up until day 14 of her menstrual cycle, she's considered to be fertile on these days. So she's fertile on these days, fertile days. So being fertile on these days basically means if she's trying to achieve pregnancy, she could have unprotected sexual intercourse on either of these days, and there's a high chance she could get pregnant. So take for instance, this lady decides to have sexual intercourse on day 7 of her menstrual cycle. The sperm is released into the female reproductive tract and is just chilling, waiting for an egg to be released so it could get it fertilized. So if she has sexual intercourse on day 7 and she manages to ovulate on day 10 of her menstrual cycle, since the sperm is already there, it's just going to fertilize the egg already released. And peradventure she decides to have sexual intercourse still on day 9 of her menstrual cycle or day 10 of her menstrual cycle, and she manages to ovulate on the day 13th of her menstrual cycle or day 14th of her menstrual cycle. Remember the 5 days rule, that the spermatozoa lasts in there for about 5 days. So if she has sexual intercourse on day 9 or day 10 and she ovulates on day 13 or day 14, she has a high chance of getting pregnant. So there is no point having sexual intercourse on a particular day 10 times, 5 times, 6 times. There's no point doing that, except there's another reason why you're doing it. But if you're trying to achieve pregnancy, just one sexual intercourse during any of her fertile days, provided the spermatozoa is deposited into the female reproductive tract, and then she ovulates within that 5 days time frame, there's a high tendency she's going to get pregnant. Just one spermatozoa. So when sexual intercourse happens, 1,001 spermatozoa, millions of spermatozoa is deposited into the vagina. But at the end of the day, when fertilization wants to happen, it is just one sperm So it is the fastest man that wins the race. It is just one sperm that gets the egg fertilized. So there's no point having sexual intercourse 10 times in a particular day, 2 times in a particular day. No, so just one, it's enough, provided it falls within her fertile window period and she manages to ovulate 5 days after the spermatozoa has been released into the vagina. So she could have sexual intercourse on the 13th of her menstrual cycle, and then she ovulates on the 16th of her menstrual cycle. There's definitely a high chance that she's going to get pregnant on that day. She could as well decide to have sexual intercourse on day 6 of her menstrual cycle, and she manages to ovulate on day 9 or day 10 of her menstrual cycle. There's a high chance this lady is going to get pregnant. What is key for you to know how many times is ideal for you to have sexual intercourse when you're trying to conceive is, first, for you to be able to calculate your menstrual cycle. You have an idea of how many days your menstrual cycle length is, and you'll be able to predict when you're possibly going to ovulate. So predicting when you're possibly going to ovulate will give you an idea of when your fertile periods are. And then having sexual intercourse, even if it's once during your fertile window period, provided you have mastered this calculation, you're able to do these calculations and you have told yourself, this is definitely my fertile window period. So if I have sexual intercourse once or twice during this period and the spermatozoa is deposited and just chilling in there for 5 days before I have my ovulation, there's a high chance I would get pregnant, provided there's no underlying fertility issue. So this calculation here is definitely key for you to know how often you should have sexual intercourse when you're trying to conceive. So we have been able to ascertain how often this lovely lady could have sexual intercourse during her fertile window period for her to achieve pregnancy. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you found this video helpful at all, you could check out my other videos on fertility tips. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you could share this video to a sister or a friend that is trying to conceive, so they have an idea of how often it's ideal for them to have sexual intercourse when they're trying to conceive to achieve pregnancy. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I love you all so much, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.